Jam on toast!
Hey everybody, I'm here to talk to you about Man on the Moon. SourceFed Movie Club did this a while back, and I can't believe I missed it. Such a wonderful choice. I'm a huge fan of Kaufman when it comes down to it. And this movie is just a shotgun of his life, from childhood to television to independent work to his death, or supposed death if you're one of those. I love it, as always with Kaufman, is the psychology and sociology involved in Kaufman's work, his manipulation of people, his understanding of people. While maybe no one ever really understood him, he understood everyone as a general sense. And he knew what he could manipulate with people and what he couldn't, and how to get his way most of the time. But it required exposure, and that is why he needed television presence where he could, because that's where he got the power. And where he got hurt a lot of times was when he couldn't get back on TV because he made everyone angry. And I don't think he could make the network see what he could see to win people back. My aid for this movie is that he died before we could see him play with the internet. Oh my gosh, can you imagine Kaufman with the power of the internet? It'd be like Lonely Girl 15, but to the nth degree. You'd see it everywhere. You'd see characters traveling around and doing things, and you have to question whether or not it's real, because that's the way Kaufman operates. The MVP for this movie would have to be Jim Carrey. There's no other way to do it. The only other way to give an MVP award for this movie would be to give to Andy Kaufman himself, because he was the inspiration and carried the movie, because everything that happened in the movie was supposedly something that actually happened, or was at least greatly based off those events. And Jim Carrey apparently played Andy Kaufman to the character so well. I think there was even an incident on set where Jerry Lawler assaulted him because he was too much like Kaufman, that he just egged him into it. I don't think there was any lawsuit, there was no battery charges or anything, but it was just something that happened because Kaufman. Before I drone on anymore, let's go into the categories. Aesthetics. While I'm not a big fan of the time periods that Kaufman was in, and you looked at television, it was literally that gritty black and white thing that he was watching, like on 12 inches. That was a good TV, like way back in the 60s. Kaufman did not have the media due to his genius. He didn't have the technology. So the time period there, like, they were very true to everything. All the hippie work, all the pants, the outfits, everything, like, was very spot on for what it was supposed to be. It was real. They did a very good job of crewing to make it look well, and they had fun scenes in there, like the whorehouse. They very easily could have cut out that whole scene, but they left it in there. A, because it gives you something to break up all the serious, devious plots, and it gives you some context of what happens at Taxi. The costuming work with Bob Zmuda and Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton, all that's done really well. Making Jim Carrey look like Andy Kaufman, making him look like a sick Andy Kaufman, was wonderful. They really did it, and they did it in a way that makes you not hate the era if you do hate the era, or at least you don't focus on it. Or I didn't. That's why Aesthetics gets an 85. Character development. Now, we may never know the real Andy Kaufman. Every character was well developed. They started strong, they kept it consistent, except for Andy. And in comparison to Andy, everybody looks very rock solid. They look like the characters are supposed to be. There's no weird dynamics to change it up, which you would think would make it boring, but Andy stole all the dynamics from everybody else. There is none left for anybody else in that movie. You have to kind of roll with it. And Andy, while they develop him 0%, is developed perfectly, because that's how he was in real life, supposedly. We got to see everything that the public saw. We got to see more than what the public saw. And maybe we didn't see everything, but we saw enough to let you know what Kaufman was about, what he loved about performing and getting people to care. So character development gets a 90 for me. The storyline, the story of Andy Kaufman's life, the way they chose to present it, with Kaufman presenting it himself, at least at the beginning, showing his childhood, showing his work from getting to television, his television career failing, to go into independent performance work, all the way to his last years where he was trying to work as he was sick. I think it's a beautiful story. It's a moment in history that everyone should remember for entertainment, especially if you're a pro wrestling fan, because Andy Kaufman was the first person that I could find that took all the aspects of professional wrestling that have existed since its inception and brought it to the real world. So the storyline gets a 90 for me. Maybe it's just because I'm a Kaufman fan. Maybe it's just because I can't get enough. But every time I watch this movie, I can't wait for the next scene. I can't wait to see how he's going to mess with people. And I can't wait to see their reactions and think about the complexities of all of it, and what could go wrong, and what didn't go wrong, and what did go wrong, and what he could have done to make it better on the next go. All the way to the point where, like, basically the only other thing he could do is fake his death, and then he gets lung cancer. Compulsion for me on this is a 95. So if we total everything up, we're going to get an average of 90. And maybe I have a lot of personal bias in this, but this is a top tier movie. I'd recommend this to everyone. I can't guarantee it for everyone, unfortunately, because not everyone understands the genius with his Kaufman. But the beauty of it is that some people still think he's alive, very similar to how they think Elvis is still alive. Elvis was abducted by aliens, however your feeling is on that. Kaufman wanted to be the greatest performer of all time. He wanted to play Carnegie Hall. The best performer of all time in his eyes, as far as I know, was Elvis. Very similar how people think the King's dead. People think Andy Kaufman may or may not be dead. Tony Clifton still plays live performances. Bob Zamuda is helping that part of Andy live on. Or maybe we'll find out in 10 years when Bob Zamuda dies and Tony Clifton goes on stage that Andy's still alive. I don't know. I'm going to try to keep this short, but the entire point of it is not to get you to love Andy Kaufman. You shouldn't have to love the characters. You can enjoy a villain without loving it. You can love to hate someone, and it works just as well. All Andy wanted to do was see if he could get people to care, and what it took. And that's what he did. That's how he did his entire performance, for his entire life, was to make people care about one thing or the other. I may make a whole other video eventually, but for now, that's all I got. I'm Cameron. Have a nice day.